Good evening, everyone. We are excited to have you all here, and it is our great pleasure to be joined by composer Roberto Sierra. We would like to thank the New York State Council on the Arts with the support of the Office of the Governor and the New York State Legislature, who have made this program and a newly commissioned work by Roberto Sierra for 5x5 possible. Tonight, we will talk about this new work. For more than 4 decades, the works of Grammy-nominated and Latin Grammy winner Roberto Sierra have been part of the repertoire of many of the leading orchestras, ensembles, and festivals in the USA and Europe. He's been nominated twice for a Grammy under Best Contemporary Composition category, first in 2009 for Misa Latina, and in 2014 for his Sinfonia No. 4. In addition, his Variations on a Souvenir and Trio No. 4 were nominated for Latin Grammys in 2009 and 2015. In 2021, his Sonata for Guitar won the Latin Grammy for Best Classical Contemporary Composition. Roberto, we are so pleased to have you here today to talk with you about your new work for 5x5, and we'll be premiering it a year from now, and we're excited to talk a little bit about it with you as we plan for the performance next season and to invite others to listen in and be a part of tonight's conversation. Welcome, Roberto. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Laura. It's a pleasure to be here.
And just to start, could you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write this piece? It was inspired by a short story. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, this of course was inspired by Jorge Luis Borges' short story. Tlon, is about the planet or the place called Tlon. Tlon Uqbar Orbis Tertius it's hard to pronounce, is the name of the short story, and it's truly a remarkable work. It's a work that deals with sort of quasi-science fiction type of literature, even before science fiction was invented. I mean, in this sense, Borges was a pioneer. I mean, there are precedents before Borges, but he really made this into a very unique way of storytelling. And it deals with aspect of philosophy, of reality, of what is real, what is not real, what is perception, whether, there are other places where things may be in one way similar, but very different from our own reality. And of course, there are references in the short story to sort of Hume, the English philosopher. There are allusions to Kant. Kant, Immanuel Kant was the first one, not the first one, one of the first one to challenge the idea of what is perception and whether we can really know things as they are. So what is it that we are looking at, and whether that thing that we are looking at, do we really know it, or is it possible to know it at all? I mean, it's and of course we are living in a time, and this is fascinating because in a way, Borges was writing about what's happening today. What is reality? What is truth? These are things that are being debated constantly, and where things that we think is one way, then somebody else says, no, I think it's this way. So I think it's a fantastic piece of writing, and I wanted to sort of not try to describe Borges' piece in my composition, but use it as a point of reference and use my own imagination in imposing to the listener sort of different oral realities, or let the listener decide what that reality is.
So in the first movement, you wrote that there are objects in this imaginary place called Tlon that consists of 2 ideas. And you said one of these objects is the remote scream of a bird. And can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, the remote scream of a bird is sound. I mean, it's a reference to sound. But you have you have something that is oral being objectified, becomes an object, something remote, and the scream of a bird, and that becomes an object. Now, how is that objectified? Don't ask me. I'm not in Planet One. I mean, there are things in that planet or place that, for example, Borges said that a certain building only exists while it's being remembered. Once nobody remembers it, it doesn't exist anymore. Or that the geometry of objects of a building will change according as you go along. So again, it's like the Twilight Zone type of situation. So I objectified the remote scream of a bird in this first piece. I made it into a musical object, and that is the genesis for that movement.
And when you and I last talked, we talked a little bit about the third movement, the dancing to architecture.
Yes.
Which, as I mentioned to you, we had a piece by composer Kamala Sankram write us a piece called Dancing About Architecture. And so I was just curious if you could talk a little bit about that. We talked about also the reference to the quote that it's not really clear actually who said that first.
Yes, it has been attributed to many different people. To me, the quote is interesting because it's a rebuke to critics. That is to say, nobody should write about music because that's like dancing about architecture. Not to architecture, or about architecture, I think is the way they said it. I say to architecture. So I am put in a situation where you dance to, not to a waltz, but you want to architecture. Is that possible? Well, no. Dancing about architecture is also not really possible. But anyway, it's not. It's to me it's not that phrase that is not in Borges' short story. Actually, I have to clarify that I took as something absurd, because that's what it was meant, saying, I don't take any music criticism because that's like dancing about architecture. So if you can write about music, then you can dance about architecture. So I wrote a piece that is actually, it's a portrayal of somebody dancing to architecture, dancing like to a waltz, or yeah. Only possible in Tron, actually.
Yeah, the combination of the alto flute and the bass clarinet. Looking forward to that combination. And what is it about the writing that you looked to? How did you realize that idea in that movement with how you wrote for us?
This I can talk not only about that piece, but in general, I think, as I said to you before, the ensemble is very unique. It's very particular, and because of I don't want to say it's absurd, but it's a class in itself. I mean, you don't have this combination of instruments as the usual ensemble. So that provides, I think, the ground to write something of this kind. I mean, related to the topics that I picked, because again, it's not usual to pair an electric guitar with a flute and then a clarinet and a piano. This is not your usual combo. So I tried in this piece and in the others to create sonorities that to me are interesting and unusual. And I always like to sort of experiment with sound.
Yeah, I remember when we first contacted you and you listened to our group, and I remember you saying immediately that you were taken by the color palette possibilities. And we hear that a lot from composers. And I think that gives us a lot of joy also, because composers feel that they can experiment and explore a wider color palette than perhaps, than with other chamber groups. So I do remember that first initial conversation with you. And then I remember you saying the match of the short story to our instrumentation seemed to make sense.
I think so. I think so. I'm very curious actually when time comes to hear it and to see how it works. You know, that's of course.
Mm. And I really like what you said about the final movement, where mysterious pulsations emanate, so that there's this entering your own reality. Maybe could you talk a little bit about how the piece finishes?
Yes, I mean the work. I mean Borges' short story is fiction, so we start to read it as fiction, you know. But he makes references to like the Encyclopedia Britannica, which is where they makes reference to this place, to Uqbar, actually, I think it is first. And then the story goes on describing this alternate reality. And then at the end, he comes back in the narration, he comes back to tell us that there was this compass discovered, and there were strange pulses that were coming from the planet, from the place Tlon. And of course it brings them transform the fiction into the reality of Buenos Aires or whatever he was. So in this piece I translate the pulsation into these repeated notes, and then at the end the players will scatter.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Except I think the piano cannot scatter, so the piano remains, but everybody else walks around and goes backstage. So this is an allusion to something that is on stage as an ensemble, and then these bands, and then the people will hear these tones around them. So in a way, it is again taking the lead from the story of what Borges was saying and putting it into the musical piece and making it sort of refine it, making it a reality.
And what other things are you working on right now? I know you just were in Los Angeles.
That's right.
Do you want to share a little bit about that, or other things that you're working on? We'd love to hear other projects that you're doing.
Yes, I was in with the Los Angeles Philharmonic. I had a piece played there in this California festival, and it was a fantastic experience. Needless to say, it's a great orchestra, and Dudamel is a fantastic conductor. So I had a good time. Although you know, LA is an interesting place, but where the orchestra plays is like a financial district. It's a little bit like Rochester, actually, in that way, where the orchestra where they play is just that sort of business-like area. But anyway, it was very wonderful experience musically. And right now I'm just writing. I'm writing always piano pieces, and I'm also writing a piece that will be played, talking about Rochester, that the Rochester Philharmonic commission. It will be played next season, which is a Sinfonia Concertante for it's the same combination as the Haydn, which is you have the orchestra, and out of the orchestra then the oboe, the bassoon, the violin, and the cello are extracted as concertante or solo instruments. So that's for next season. That's what I'm busy with now.
Yeah. You'll have to tell us the date, and probably Eric will be playing in it. So
I think so. The date I don't really know yet, and of course they will announce it, I think, after Christmas, so it all will be revealed, the date. But that's a project at hand.
And we loved hearing the premiere of the violin concerto. That was phenomenal, absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, I had a great time with that. Yeah, and then I'm going next week. I'm going to Puerto Rico for my work called Misa Latina. That's the next performance I have this year before Christmas. Yeah, so it's been a busy fall.
Well, we are balancing many projects right now for 5x5, and the thing that's keeping us busy this season, we just finished some Sephardic performances, and we're getting ready for Eclipse concerts in January, and that's involving 5 new premieres. And once that clears off of our plates, we are ready to dive in and work with you, and we're very excited for this collaboration and relationship with you, and premiering the piece with you. And I had a conversation, as you saw, with or we're planning to meet with some of the folks from Society of New Music, and so we hope that there can be some collaboration there. Those are that would be a wonderful partnership, so we're working on that for the fall. And I think if there's anything else that any of the musicians wanted to ask or talk about while we have you here, I think it's a great honor to work with you, and we are so happy that NISCA supported this new work, and it's such a pleasure to we have such joy and excitement about playing this piece next year and working together.
I'm very much looking forward to it too.
Any 5x5 folks have anything to add or anything to say? And we want to, I see Pierre and Luis have joined us. So thanks, or Louis, thanks for joining in on the conversation. And if people have any questions for Roberto, but I think the excitement is building for us to read through your piece, and we're looking forward to doing that in the spring.
Well, I'm very much looking forward as well.
Hey, I've been browsing the score the entire time while we've been talking, so it's, yeah, can't wait to get started and playing it. It looks so adventurous, and I just love in the bass part, like looking at it, all the different colors and little characters I'm going to get to play, and yeah, I'm stoked.
I hope everything works. That's the most important part.
That's why
I'll make it work.
That's why there's workshopping. I'm sure it all does.
Well, I'm looking forward, and I can't wait to hear you guys go through it and hearing it for the first time.
I'm excited for the second movement. I like what you said about, because I'm imagining it. Is it you know, it's kind of a fantastic waltz, right? It's this kind of like, and it reminds me a little bit of, just looking at it again, I can't hear it exactly, but it reminds me a little bit of Prokofiev for some reason. But it has this look to it that I'm completely excited to play it. I love I don't know, it has a great look to it. I'm imagining what it sounds like.
And Ken gets to use ethereal distortion
in that movement.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's grabbing my attention, because I love these like fast kind of waltz, and I can imagine it's kind of fantastic sounding, and you know, so yeah. Where is the ethereal guitar? Oh, wait, I found it. Yeah. Roberto, do you want to mention? I asked you about you read something about the second movement, that the 4 different aspects. Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah, this is triangular, refers to meter 3. Then so these are the words I use in the title. Triangular refers to meter, fragmented refers to form, because it's fragmented and juxtaposed. Brilliant and mysterious refer to character. So these are, in this Borgian sense, these are 4 concepts that come together to form a work, a piece of music. And again, that's also the way of thinking in that way is referential to the story. And these are not things that necessarily belong together: triangular, fragmented, brilliant, mysterious. I mean, something that is brilliant is usually not mysterious. You see, there is that sort of contradiction, but they belong together and they form. Again, it's like the something that can become an object that is 2 different things, like the bird and the scream.
Or like in the 4th movement, the funeral procession, but it's a parade with military march.
Yeah. It's again, I wanted to do a funeral march, but then how would the funeral march be there? Well, it's a military parade, not procession. It's a parade, so it's celebratory and militaristic. Yeah, and that's again is something that can only happen in this fictional sort of world. I hope it works. I hope it all comes, and I hope that it makes sense, and I hope that it transforms that moment when the piece is done and people are listening to it. Again, I don't know what people will make of it. It's we never know.
I'm excited. I think it'll give the ensemble a chance to really stretch our imaginations and like really show off our abilities. I mean, we've been together for quite a while now, and it'll be fun getting to show off how well we can stick together as things move in different characters quite quickly from one scene to the next. I'm trying to think it's been a bit since we read that short story together, and I'm trying to think of the concept of like, if you think it exists, but then if you don't, it does not.
Well, that's reality. I mean, it's that again is the Kantian concept of objects outside of ourselves. It's the way we are perceiving it, but that does not represent the object. It only represents what we are perceiving and how we perceive it. So reality is limited by our perception. So if you don't think about it, it doesn't exist to you. But reality exists. Reality is, what I'm trying to say is, reality is individual. We know that that's not quite like that. We know that if I die now, poof, it disappears, and there's no reality for me. But hopefully you won't disappear with me. But yet, how do I know that? Am I sure of that? It's like the Matrix, that type of thing, which actually is interesting because Borges was a pioneer before these concepts existed in Hollywood. So yeah, that's what it is. But even before Borges, Immanuel Kant was posing, I mean, in the Critique of Pure Reason, is how what is knowledge, and how do we get to knowledge, and how is it possible that does knowledge exist a priori, meaning given to us, or is knowledge something that we acquire while looking at objects and things like that? And his conclusion is that we cannot know the thing in itself, that we are limited in that type of perception and knowledge. Also, I think Hume argued about that. I'm not too sure, but I think he did. And this type of thinking, by the way, made possible all the things that we see now and nowadays being spoken, and these polarizations, and my reality is the right one, and the other person's reality is not the right one. It's all very Kantian in a way. It's in a way, postmodernism is a byproduct of the Age of Enlightenment, meaning Immanuel Kant and all these philosophers, and Nietzsche, of course. Nietzsche is the one who said there are no facts, only opinions. I don't quite like that myself, but I see the rationale behind it. I don't like it because it breaks order, as we can see nowadays. If I don't believe in anything else but what I believe, then how can we function? And that's in a way we see that sometimes we are not really functioning because of that, because we all think that we have, I have my ideas, and my ideas are the right ones, and these are, but again, this has been discussed in philosophy even before Kant, Plato, Aristotle. I mean, it's all there, but now it's becoming a reality, like the pulses of Tlon. But you see, I don't want people to listen to the piece and have to. I don't think it's a requisite for them even to read the story. I want them to listen to the music, and maybe just the title and whatever I write as a program note would suffice. And if people want to read Borges, or if they want to read philosophy, that's fine. I mean, it's. But to me, these are important sort of stepping stones in the sense of inspiration. I have a restless mind.
Was there anything in this piece that was in writing it that was new for you?
Yes, I think that there was a little bit of speculation, specifically dealing with electric guitar. I have never written for electric guitar, so that in itself was new. I've written for electric violin, though, which uses the same, not the same, but similar sort of filters as the electric guitar. I remember having this discussion with our friend, and talking and discussing this, and I wrote little indications, which again we'll see once it's being rehearsed how they work, and hopefully that the balance between the instruments keeps right, so that nothing overtakes. When you deal with electronic amplification, as is electric guitar, things can happen like that.
I think one of the things that we are always challenged by, but we enjoy it, is the keeping the instruments balanced, and kind of each piece. Sometimes we have to, working with composers, we can make little adjustments in dynamics or octave range or instrument choices to make things work better. But yeah, that is definitely a fun part of our group, but also an ongoing challenge, is that the balance between the different instruments. So we're curious to try. We're always curious to try each piece that is written for us and see how the composer navigated through that, and see what things we'll have to sort out, or what things may work really, really well, and other things that might need some balancing on our part to bring out what needs to be brought out. Yeah.
The good thing is that we have time. I mean, we are in good time. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, anything else from anybody? This has been really, really wonderful, and we'll do this again, in the spring, and maybe we'll talk about having you come here and visit and meet in person, and you can come to the studio and we can work together on your piece in person.
It would have to be more like early summer because I'll be away.
We'll figure out.
We can soon, but I think we need to be in person for me to hear things well. I mean, this medium is not very good for rehearsals. Never works well. But anyway, we'll do what we can.
Yeah, we had enough of this on Zoom rehearsing and performing for 2 years during the pandemic. So I don't know about other people, but this is the first time I'm on a group thing like this for a while, since the pandemic. And it's really interesting coming back again and seeing all the little faces and talking in this way. And it's I mean, it's good that we have this now, because now we can engage like this, but it reminds me of how sad I was during all that time and when we were apart from each other. And so I'm happy that we can plan to be together in person and play music together.
I feel, I heard somebody said that whatever was happened in movies eventually happened in real life. And I have to say that I feel like I don't know, maybe you're too young for this, but I feel like I'm now in a Jetsons episode. You remember? I'm waiting for the little robots, to.
Well, it goes with the fantasy reality thing, So,
but this was the Jetsons, right? This exactly like that. How horrible.
I'd take a flying car.
That well, they are now flying taxis. I saw that. Did you see that they're in Florida actually? But not levitation, but with like not helicopters, but propellers like that. I don't think I'm ready to hop on one yet. All right. Well, thank you. This is very nice, and I look forward to feedback. And please give me any feedback regarding whatever questions you may have about the score. Don't hesitate. I guess you will start working on it after Christmas, after all, as Laura said. So I look very much forward to communications. Again, I won't be in the area. I'll be away until May or so. But we can communicate in either email, or if we need to regroup this way, we can do it as well.
Thank you so much, Roberto. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all for being here.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.